Hello and welcome back. In this video we're going to talk about local storage and how we can utilize it to improve the car page that we worked on the last time. Local storage allows us to save or persist data, so whenever you reload the page, things are still going to be there. This is a really good idea when you, for example, have a database of cars and you want them to be intact whenever you go back, or you want to create some sort of other minor database. In this case, we're going to take the car array and we should put it into a local storage. So the first thing to think about is, when should we save our car? Well, we wanna change or save the car array whenever there's a change to it. And in this case, we can see that we change it whenever we push to it down here. So I'm going to create a new function called save cars, like so. And then we're going to say function save cars, and that should be working. So if you want to inspect what's in your local storage, at least in Chrome, you can go into the developer tools, and then you can go into application, and then down here in local storage you can see what's already in here. Local storage functions as a key value pair system, where you'll be able to put a value for a key, and that allows us to save many different options for our application. This could also just be that we want a dark mode that the user could enable on the side that could be saved in here, so when they come back the next time it's still going to be dark. Then again, in this example, we're just going to focus on how we can persist the cars from the car array. So let's get started. Local storage has a setItem function that takes the key that we want to use. In this case, I'm just gonna say cars, and you may be tempted to create an item for each of the car elements. And first of all, you have to iterate through all of the cars within the local storage, and furthermore, if you had other things in the local storage, you would have to filter them out before you do anything. So I would highly recommend that you just stick to having one key value pair where you include all of the cars. In this case, we're going to create the local storage, we're going to create an item. It's called cars, and then what do we want to add to it? We want to add the car array. Let's see what happens. So over here, I'm going to enter Toyota, and we're going to say Corolla and add it. And right away you can see that it's already updated our local storage. The problem is that the value is incorrect. And the problem is that the car array is not actually in string, but local storage always expects the value right here to be a string. Thus, it's trying to convert the car array to some sort of string and then save it, and that's not working because it's just saving it as a plain object, or whatever you want to call it. So what we have to do here is we have to somehow change this car array into a string. This is where JSON comes in. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation and allows us to save objects and arrays as a string in a specific syntax. So in this case, we're going to say JSON, let JSON equals, and then there's this JSON where you can say Stringify, and then pass it the variable. We're going to say car array. So then down here we can pass the JSON instead. Go back here now. We say Toyota Corolla and add it. And right away we can now see that instead of just having that old object that didn't work out, we can see that we instead have an array. Within the array there's one item. It has a make Toyota and model Corolla. If I now add Skoda Herb and add it, this list is now updated. So instead it now includes two objects, and we can see down here we have the Toyota on index 0 and the Skoda on index 1. Perfect. Alright, the problem is that if I refresh this page, it's gone. And it's gone because we're not loading anything from the local storage when we boot up the page initially. So even though this is still here, whenever I refresh, we're not loading it. And you know, even if we go in further, we're actually going to delete, overwrite this when we write anything new. So if I go back and say test2, and then add that, we actually overwritten the local storage, and that's not exactly what we want. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that when the site has been loaded completely, the local storage is loaded into the car array. Alright, so what we can do here is that we can create an event where we hook into whenever the window is done loading. So unload, and then we'll create a function e and like so. And what we want to happen in this case is that it should load everything from local storage. So we'll say local storage dot get item instead this time. And then we'll say we want the cars element. By passing cars here, and we say console.log like so. Refresh the page and go into the console. You'll see that it's actually printing this out right away. Perfect. So we're gonna save this into a variable real quick. So let cars equals this. And then we have the problem. I'm gonna console log it once again, because what we want to do now is that we want to put this variable cars, we want to put it right into the car array. But the problem is that this is not an ordinary array. Right now it's actually a string. So if we say cars, type of cars equals string, we can see if this matches, and we'll see down here that this is indeed a string, which means that if we put it up into this one, into the car array, let's just do that for sake of teaching. So car array equals cars, we're gonna have a bad time. I'm gonna load this, and I'm gonna add something down here. You now see that it's saying car array push is not a function. And that's because essentially car right here, this is a string. It's a string that includes the object we had before. And then down here, we're overriding this with a string. And strings don't have a push function. You can't push anything to the end of a string like so. We don't have anything to push. Whereas instead, if this was an array, we could say a push and then some item to the end of it. So that works. So the problem once again is that this is a string, which means instead we have to convert the cars into back into an array. Luckily, there's another function for that. So what we can do here, I'm gonna console log again. We can say JSON dot, and it's called pass, and then we take the cars like so, and we will actually see that right now, instead of printing out the string, we're getting an object back from the local storage. Now we can open this, and we can see that there's one item with make test and the model test 2. Perfect. So this is essentially what we want to load from local storage. I'm gonna take this and put it down into the to this line where we assign it to the car array. I'm gonna delete this, and when I refresh the page now, this car array is now filled with one item. So you may not see it right now because we haven't refreshed the UI, but if I go down here and say car array, we can see that this now has a value saved to it. It's coming from the local storage. Great. Now we need to refresh the UI to reflect that there's something coming from local storage. And here I can just call refresh, like so. And now you'll see that it automatically loaded the page. Whenever I refresh it, as soon as it's done loading the page, this new item has been added to the end. Perfect. So the last thing we need to do is that we need to make sure that this always works. And there's one problem. So I can add another one, the good old Skoda Superb, add it, there we have it. And if we go back into the application and I delete this, what do you think is going to happen? Pause the video and take a second to guess what's going to happen. Alright, so I'm gonna refresh the page now, and we get another problem. It's saying car array is not iterable. So why is this happening? Well, let's see what this cars. Once again, down here, unload is running as the first thing when the application starts up. So let's see what cars evaluates to. So cars log, the console log the cars. You'll see it says null. So why is it saying null? Well, we just cleared the local storage. It's looking for an item called cars, but it's not here anymore. So this is returning null, which means we have a problem, because now we're overriding our car array with whatever this ends out being. Actually, let's just real quick, I have an idea this is going to be null as well. Yeah, there you have it. So JSON parse on null just evaluates to null. That's a problem. So what we need to do is that we need to check if the cars is equal to null, because then we know that the local storage hasn't been initialized yet. So if cars equals null, then we just want to return, because we don't want to do anything. We don't want to alter the car array. We don't want to do anything to it. So whenever the local storage, whenever the page loads, we're going to open local storage, get an item that's called cars. In case that it doesn't exist, we're going to return, and that means the rest of this is not going to happen, and we're not going to override the car array. And then everything is going to function as it was doing before. If we click add now, we'll see that down here it's been added to the car array, and we can keep doing this to add it. I can refresh the page and everything is working. The last thing to do is that we want to quickly add a button where we can clear the local storage, or at least I'm thinking I would like to do that. So clear, we can call this clear local storage. Perfect. So let's create a new function up here. Like so. So here we just want to call local storage, remove item. We want to remove the cars item, and then we of course once again need to refresh the UI, because even though if I click refresh, it's going to be gone down here, it hasn't reflected the UI. We call refresh again down here. So, and actually no, we need something else, because right now we've cleared local storage, but that doesn't mean that the car array has been cleared. Go into the car array. Alright, it reloaded. But anyway, if I do this now, add it, and I click clear, we'll see that the local storage is gone. However, if I take the car array, it still has that one element in it. And that's why it's still rendering the page as if there's still one thing in there, which there is. So once again, we're just going to say car array equals an empty array. And now let's add the Toyota Corolla, like so. I'm gonna add the Skoda tab, add it again, and when we look into application and local storage, they're both there. If I refresh the page, they're still there. And if I click clear now, I'm going to clear local storage, our array is empty, and yeah, that's it. So now we're able to save the state of our page. And yeah, it's working out pretty well, I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching.